Well, on live. So if I seem like I'm trying to do too much stuff, sound good, clear, without much crackling. I don't understand why there's any crackling at all. It's got to be the iPad at this point because I've changed the hub, I've changed the splitter, I've changed the mic. With mic, without mic, there was never any crackling, but it's got to be the connector into it. Okay, well, I know it's not. I'm a little bit of an audiophile, so that annoys me. I don't want there to be any crackling. I will deal with it, and but everybody else. So thank you, Beth. I'll take a look at it. Good morning to everybody on all of these streams. We're all over the place today, just because kind of the nature of the topic, what it's relevant to, and it's going to be relevant to things that are going to be occurring in the news in the near future. But I do want to wish you all a very good morning and welcome to what I hope is going to be the most positive experience of your life, but maybe of your day or of your morning at the very least. This is the Freedom Coffee live stream where we all come together. All of us who love and embrace freedom, we come together with a cup of coffee or tea or whatever you want. And we do something that's important, and some people got upset at me for it, but I think I've explained it. I hope I've explained it. The whole idea that we need to celebrate the freedoms that we have, and we understand there's a lot of issues, and that's why we're here, because we're pushing back against them. And we're also going to look to expanding our freedoms in the future. And we can't do that from a permanent state of anxiety. But if we do that from a state of positivity, then, like they say in Spanish, el mundo es tuyo, the world is yours, and I believe that. And I think that was kind of the spirit of what we did in Ottawa. Good morning, Megan, Sir Alexander, Lacey. Hi, everybody. Everybody on Instagram, Beth, thanks. I could read you how close you are to me. I'm like, yeah. Anyways, thank you all for being here. A couple of things. So if you are not on Locals, please, I encourage you to follow on Locals, honkingforfreedom.locals.com, as we're getting closer to announcing the date for the book launch and the book launch event that I've already had a number of people ask me that they want to attend. So because I know there's going to be a lot of demand, we're trying to figure out how to triage people who participate. So first tier of the triage are people who subscribe to Locals, the honkingforfreedom.locals.com, which is the iPad in front of me. And then if you subscribe to the Substack, which is bjdictor.substack.com, that will be the next tier of people that will get the opportunity to get tickets. Between the two of them, on Locals, there's a few hundred people. That's why I want to start there. And whatever is remaining, which obviously there's a lot remaining, not everybody's in Toronto and can be there, but there's 100,000 people who subscribe to my Substack. So after those 100,000 people have gone through, then we'll go to the, general, just the general public, whoever wants to attend and all that sort of stuff. So it's going to be quite cool. This week was amazing for me. I have these experiences in life, and I woke up to an email I was in my truck. I woke up to an email from Jordan Peterson and sending me the blurb for the book, or the endorsement for the book to put on the back. And I got to tell you, I'm just a regular dude, man, and it felt so good because I had given him not an advanced copy, but a rough draft copy of the book for him to read, and I don't know, it just felt so good. It was really kind of nice, and that's a sign that things are changing and things are moving forward in the right direction for all of us. This whole idea of freedom movement, despite the rocks and bumps in the roads, and a little bit of infighting, which I'm going to talk about in a second. I think we're on the right path, and things are just going to get better. And I do think, like I said yesterday, we are on the horizon of massive change in the world, and positive change that's going to be for everybody. So anyways, the book release date will be announced next couple of days. We're just working, me and Ellie are working on it. And for those of you who are Bitcoiners, I know there's always a couple of Bitcoiners here and there, and I go into a lot of Bitcoin spaces. The Bitcoin chapter is now 2 chapters because it was just too long. There was so much going on. So I think they're going to like the. I think everybody's going to love the book. I promise. It's not going to be a waste of your time, and it will shed a lot of light into what was going on behind the scenes in Ottawa. You know what I was dealing with, and Tamara and everybody else were dealing with behind the scenes. And tell a lot of the stories and stories from other people. So, for example, we reached out to a whole bunch of other people to say, okay, well, what was your experience? Because I don't want it to be, my verbal diarrhea sort of thing, right? And one of them that was amazing that we came when we were doing the research, John and I, was the story of Dave from Live from the Shed, who's a YouTuber, and he was in the shed on the truck at Parliament Hill, and So John went out and interviewed Dave, and then we put together a chapter that just tells the story of Dave and how the New York Times was defending his claim that the Ottawa police drew guns on him. So it was quite it's quite amazing. So there's going to be a whole. It's not just going to be me, but there's going to be other people's stories as well, and I think it's going to be all reflected in a positive light, and you'll walk away reading the book. I hope that it will be perceived as the historical record of what went on in Ottawa, despite the political nonsense that our political parties and our political class are going to try to run us through with this commission, which I will be testifying in as well. Okay, a couple of things. I apparently caused a car accident yesterday. So Susanna, who is one of the people who's been coming in here quite a bit, she was listening, not watching, the stream while she was in the car yesterday, going to doing the school run in the morning, and somebody rear-ended her and pushed her into somebody else's car. So I hope that doesn't happen again. Please be very careful if you're listening to this and you're in your car. Keep an eye on your rearview mirror. And please be safe. So, Susanna, I hope everything works out well. And just let me know how things transpire. So, the other thing is I want to ask you, did you like, for those of you who watched it, and if you didn't, you should, did you like the watch party I did last week? Well, I did. A bunch of us were in it. When I watched the Punchy McGregor CTV fake news documentary about the Freedom Convoy, where he did nothing but lie and distribute fake news narrative journalism about the Freedom Convoy with all the scary music and making the truckers look like, they're the enemy of civilization. If you haven't watched it, it's on my channel. It's called How the Media Lies. It's long. It's a couple of hours. You can watch it tonight, I guess. But if you liked it, please let me know. And because I'm thinking about doing another watch party like that again, where we all just kind of spend a Saturday night and get together with some drinks, especially since it's going to be getting colder now for those of us in the northern part of the United States and in Canada. So I think it's a good way from time to time, just go on there and all of us, talk in the chat, and I'll go through, because there's a couple of other videos related to all this stuff that are quite funny that I thought would be good for us all to discuss. That will give added context to not just the Freedom Convoy, but explain, some of it'll help us push back against many of the people that have been attacking and smearing us. Sonia says, I remember that shed. He was great. Yeah, and to show how in some ways, you can be right in the middle of something, but also somewhat isolated from stuff. Because every day I was doing, 3 interviews, 4 interviews, and each interview you got to understand, like when you go on, the worst was Hannity. It's nothing against Hannity, but you do 45 minutes of setting up the camera, and somebody from Fox News calls you and says, okay, turn on your camera, move back a foot, move forward a foot, adjust your screen, and blah, blah, blah. And you do that stuff for, nice people, but you do that for like 5 minutes. And then you sit there and you wait for like 45 minutes. And then the segment, and I'm listening to it in an earpiece in my Bluetooth, and it's okay, fine. And then, boom, you go right to shot. And in the case of Hannity, if I had to do it again, I probably would have just done Hannity once was enough. But it comes on for like, I don't know, 30 seconds to, it feels like 10 seconds. And, a bunch of assertions, yes, answer a question, and then boom, you're done. It's like, oh my God, that's what, where did an hour of my life just go in a time where you don't really have that much time? And, Newsmax operates the same way, and all the other Fox affiliates were like that too. And it's not just Fox, it's just mainstream media in general. So, because of that, Dave Live from the Shed was going on, and I had no idea because I had no time to go onto YouTube to see what was happening because of scheduling interviews all the time. And I was talking to people, and then, once I was limited and broke my ankle and I couldn't go around, I was limited to I had people running around and telling me as much stuff as possible and back and forth. But, I was limited to essentially my hotel room or meetings in the hotel where I could wheel around my wheelchair. And then every Sunday after Pastor Hillebrand, or when Pastor Hillebrand did a service, at the end of the service, I would speak for 5-10 minutes and just to thank everybody for coming out, despite the fact it would take me an hour to crutch in the snow, and do no thanks to the Ottawa OPP who wouldn't allow anybody to drive me to the stage, so I had to kind of risk it all in the snow, but it is what it is, right? So anyways, if you didn't watch the watch party, watch it. I think you'll like it. And if you did watch it, tell me what you think. And if you think I should do it again. And Sonia says, yes, loved it, Punchy. Punchy McGregor. He's such a loser. Anyways, I don't think he's going to be in journalism very much longer. It's only a matter of time till CTV cuts the cord and realizes he's a liability. When I was putting this together, something that popped into my head. I don't understand. I don't know why this popped into my head when I was doing my notes this morning. But politicians and political parties, like, it's why it was, and this is part of the reason there's so much attacks on me from people involved in the political class, because like I don't have time for bullshit, and all they want to do is bullshit and waste time, and it's so frustrating. Like, I'll give you the perfect example that popped in. Kiss Junkie, thank you. Okay, Kiss Junkie liked it as well. So I'll give you a perfect example. A few years ago, was working on a project with some people that was, political in nature and related to the Conservative Party and a whole bunch of stuff. And there were a whole bunch of people from the Conservative Party who all of a sudden started joining and wanting to help and all that sort of stuff, which, okay, great that you want to help and that you're interested, appreciate it. And, it was a friend of mine and myself who kind of put it all together. And I remember we were at my friend's house and there was a meeting of, I don't know, 10 people, 8 people, something like that. And this is to give you an insight on the people in the political class and why nothing works. So we had this meeting of 8 or 10 people, wherever it was, and we're talking about different initiatives. And first, they're always trying to push it in a narrative that benefits the political party. Because, anybody in intelligence, or like Tom Quiggin often says, political parties behave like cults, and they definitely 100% do. Which is so. First, it's always adherence to the cult, and we're like, because myself and my friend, like, we don't care, right? We have our own lives. We're small business people. We don't have any adherence to any political cults, and every decision. Everything that we would have to explore, like any time you're involved in any sort of group or whatever, there's going to be little projects that you do. So in the real world, in the corporate world, in small business, whatever, it's somebody would be either volunteer or somebody would be assigned a project, and you deal with the project and then get back to the team, which is my frame and my friend's frame. No. That's not how people in the political class work, because they're very lazy, but they want all the power and all the and none of the responsibility. Every decision, it's like, oh, we should form a subcommittee on this issue. And I remember the first time I heard that, I looked at my friend, I'm like, the hell's he talking about? There's 10 of us here. We have a subcommittee. There's 10 people. Just somebody deal with it. That's it, right? Every decision is always, oh, well, we should have a subcommittee for this, and then we can have another committee that can report on this issue in a month. And we're just like, what the hell's wrong with these people? Like, they're retarded. Like, what's wrong with them? That's the political class. That's how they operate. Nobody wants to take any responsibility. They want to defer all responsibility and blame to somebody else, yet they want all the power. They want to tell you and I how we all should live our lives. And then if we don't come into line and we have our own methodology of doing things, then it's constant whisper campaigns. What are constant whisper campaigns? Well, a whisper campaign is somebody who's an expert in that is that former MP or MPP or whatever his name is, Randy Hillier, that idiot. That's what he does. That his entire political career was whisper campaigns. That's all he does, which is start spreading rumors like a friggin' child about somebody that's completely untrue and try to get it out to as many people as possible. That's all they do. That's what they know what to do. They know how to do whisper campaigns, and they know how to defame people. That's all they do in the political sphere. They do nothing else. So, hey, I got my first troll. I got my first FU troll. I love it. But anyways, so this is why nothing happens in our country, or change is so slow, is because when people like myself or like my friend get involved, and we're very, quick decisions, small business, okay, here's the problem, here's the solution, or you deal with it and let us know next week, great, we would do it. But the political class has to defer all responsibility to everybody else, and anybody who doesn't come in line with the cult gets a whisper campaign around them, which is the smear is different for everybody, right? He's not a real conservative, or he's a Fed, or this guy's a plant, or this guy works for Trudeau, or whatever. And, it's one of those things that when you hear somebody say something about somebody, if you don't hear the opposing idea, the opposing view, you're flying blind because you're just taking somebody's word for it. And one thing about people in politics, Truman was right when he said, you want a friend in Washington, buy a dog. That's how it is. None of these people, they're very lonely people because none of these people have friendships. They have these fake relationships that are just based on opportunism and them trying to get another public appointment or a job within the government or whatever. They're all just angling each other, maneuvering each other for a job. And they're really quite pathetic, and that's why they're all so miserable. That's where all the beta males of society are. They're all in politics, and they all want to be the leaders, but they just don't have the balls for it. And it is what it is, right? Cassie Holla, good morning. We got a Bitcoiner here. Yeah, so what I mentioned when I started, the Bitcoin chapter in the book is now 2 chapters because it was just too long. It was it was over twice as long as all the other chapters. You guys are going to love it because that story could be a book in itself. But a big shout out and thank you to Greg Foss, Jeff Booth, Caribou, and BTC Sessions, and a whole bunch of people for contributing their interviews for that part of the book so we could put it all together. And that's one of those things. So much like Dave Live from the Shed, there were these, so I had no idea any of that was going on. I had no clue. And I found out, recently within the past couple of months. But at the same time, when Caribou and all these people started raising Bitcoin for the truckers, like I didn't know. They just showed up in my hotel room one day. Like they sent me a message over Twitter. I think it was Caribou. And he said, are you a Bitcoiner? I'm like, yeah, quiet Bitcoiner, but that's why it says hashtag Bitcoin on my Twitter account. And he's like, yeah, we're raising money. Can I come see you? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Okay, cool. And he came to my hotel room and he's like, yeah, this is who I am. And, this is what we're doing. He wanted to get a little bit of idea of my knowledge of it and whatever. When I went to people in the Freedom Convoy to say, hey, there's people raising Bitcoin for the truckers, wow, you talk about the hostility that I received to that. And it's just like, okay, dude, just because you don't know something doesn't mean it should be automatically put in a negative basket. You got to kind of learn about things before you come to some preconceived notions. Good morning, K9. How are you, sweetheart? I hope you're feeling well. Everybody send a big hug to K9. She's been going through some health stuff, but she also has an amazingly positive attitude, which is important in those scenarios. And thank you for all your support. You've been amazing and been lovely this entire time. Anyways, so once again, fuck. I go onto Twitter, which was probably the first mistake, and again, I'm seeing the smear. I haven't seen very much of it, to be entirely honest, but I'm seeing the smear of, oh, BJ Dichter, he's a rat, he's a fed, he's a this, and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with people? Really, what is wrong with you? Like, it's so frustrating that people, they can be so easily led down this path, and this is what I mean. Let's step back and think of it logically. There's a group of people that clearly have been fed a lot of bullshit by that idiot with the Jewish conspiracy moron, the guy who's in jail now, who's very mouthy and but not very big on knowledge. So just because somebody is mouthy and can talk doesn't mean they have very much wisdom. I mean, that's a very important lesson, right? That I think most of us have gone through that experience in our life. But anyways, so he was aligned with some people in one of the other parties. This is all politically motivated. It's all political parties that are doing these. Remember I told you the whisper campaigns? Well, this is a variant of the whisper campaign. You have somebody who's spreading it out, and eventually it gets to somebody who's a streamer who becomes the useful idiot who's just going to, start to regurgitate whatever he's heard, and he's not going to go and get, the opposite side and get an understanding of who the person is. Whatever, it's fine. This is just the nature of what happens in alternative media. And this is also part of the reason the normies don't accept alternative media like a lot of us are, because this sort of nonsense happens. Yeah, thanks, Susanna, you're funny. So let's step back and let's look at the level of cognitive dissonance that needs to be absorbed or accepted by somebody to hold this sort of opinion. So here I am with myself, there's Tamara, there's 6 other board members, of which only 2 were ever arrested, okay? And people who I don't think they're disingenuous when they say they believe in freedom and want to fight for freedom, want to support the trucker convoy. So they have this movement that they support, yet at the same time, they've been primed to have an emotional opinion to attack one of or multiple, because this happened to Tamara as well, leaders of that group. So you support the movement, but the people who put it together, no, they're the enemy. What sort of logical inconsistencies do you need to be able to adopt to have that line of thinking, right? Especially since how much all of us, not just myself, all of us went through during this period. In my case, the 6 months of lost wages, the getting my bank accounts frozen, my credit cards frozen, my corporate accounts frozen, insurance, everything was frozen. The government was trying to starve us and to starve me. Yet somehow people get convinced that those people are on the other side when they've made all the sacrifices, and it doesn't matter that he's had everything froze. You understand how this doesn't make sense, and this is a good example of cognitive dissonance and why people have their opinions primed. And this is based on social proof, right? Enough people say it, enough people start spreading the whisper campaign, then people just stop asking. They just assume, well, because so many people, this small group of people are saying it, therefore it's true. And it was really frustrating to go through this during the convoy, and I finally was in a Twitter space and confronted one of those people. And it was the most disingenuous debate tactic you've ever seen, which was hurl 10 accusations at me that are completely untrue. And if I can't refute them all in one sentence immediately, beyond that, everything you said is a lie, then I'm the liar. That's what they did. And in this particular case, I think this was the second week of the convoy, if I remember correctly, and I went into a very large room, and this one obnoxious, I'll stem the swearing for a bit, was in there, and it was accusation after accusation. It's like it's just the straw man. I have no idea who they're talking about. They're clearly not talking about me, but he's been part of the group spreading this rumor for so long. But what I did is I responded to as many of these questions and accusations and assertions as possible to explain to everybody else in the room, because I knew he wasn't going to listen, to everybody else in the room exactly what was going on behind the scenes, some of the problems we were dealing with and trying to manage, which would have been a lot easier if people weren't trying to sabotage the Freedom Convoy at the same time. And it turns out it was his friends that were doing that. But after, I don't know, 20 minutes or so of me explaining everything in my full context, I heard somebody pipe up. I can't remember who it was, but he was a CEO of some company with a pretty large following, so clearly not somebody who was dumb. Finally piped up and said to this person, whatever his name was, says, "Enough already. He's answered your question 5 times. Move on." And because you could see that people were like, okay, he's clearly just telling us exactly what's going on, which I really didn't have a choice, right? It's only people who are in the political bubble. The people who are in the political bubble, who are always wearing the political glasses of party versus party, they're the ones who are always thinking everybody else is lying, because that's all they do. It's really weird when I saw this when I went through being a candidate. When I would talk to people and I would tell them things, they would ask me a question, I would respond, and they wouldn't believe a word I would say, no matter what it is, because everything they say is a lie. All they're doing is reading body language. They don't actually listen to each other say. Like, that's why it's the weirdest culty behavior you've ever seen in political parties. That's why, when people say, one person or another is going to fix everything and change everything, like, no, it's not. It's going to be us. It's going to be us that's going to reach out to our friends and neighbors and people we disagree with and get them on board to at least understand our worldview. They're the ones, all of us together, we're the ones who will change things, because the political class ultimately has to chase us. They don't like to think that that's the case, but that's really how the system works. But anyways, so the latest smear was, I have it written down here, he's a rat, an informant, and a plant. I don't trust him. Okay, well, where did you get that from? Was it from my interview with Jordan Peterson that all of a sudden was it with Dave Rubin? Was it on Tucker Carlson? Was it me sticking my neck out the entire time that did it? Like, what was it? Other than some obnoxious loudmouth who's in a lot of trouble right now, who just makes up a lot of bullshit about a lot of people. Other than that, what about what you were actually seeing with your eyes and us, what we had to go through in Ottawa? Like, I don't understand what it was. So the obsession seems to be around the fact, and I've explained this so many times in so many spaces and chats and all that sort of stuff. Says the person who has to use a fake name in order to insult. Yes, yeah, good point. They can't use their actual name. What did I freeze on here? Is that what happened? I don't know, one of the Instagram feeds is frozen. Anyways. So the latest one was, well, why didn't he get arrested? Why was he not arrested in Ottawa? Like, would you want us to get arrested? Is that your goal? You want all of us to get arrested? That's important to you? Like, I don't get it. I thought the idea was freedom, ending mandates, and ending the passport apps and all this mask stuff, whatever. Is that what you want, or you wanted us to get arrested? Would you choose one? Pick one. Can't be both, right? Anyways, so they start with why wasn't BJ arrested? look, I'm not a police officer. I have cops in my family, so I understand how that world works. And I also have family in the legal profession, so I understand that. So I was a little bit, I guess, better apt to deal with some of this stuff. And I tried to give advice to some people who would listen or wouldn't listen. I ignored some of the stupidest legal advice that we were getting throughout the convoy. Like, I couldn't believe some of the things that they were saying from people who are lawyers. It was absolutely crazy, and we'll talk about that more as time goes on. But from what I understand from friends of mine who are in policing and family are in policing, who are explaining, this was basic crowd control, right? They had this protest in, I'll get to that in a second, Beth. We had this, imagine you're an officer, you're assigned from, or your chief, whatever. Okay, you have this protest, you have this thing in the middle of the city. What do you need to do? You need to end it. And they couldn't end it because we parked where the Ottawa, city of Ottawa told us to be, and we were peaceful. Everybody, the hot tub, the dance parties, the feeding the homeless, the barbecues, the vibe was amazing. I keep saying this was Canada's Woodstock, not literally Woodstock, but the fantasization of what Woodstock was that we grew up with in the 80s and 90s. That's what they had in Canada. That's what Prime Minister Blackface violently ended. So you have this protest, and it needs a political solution, but the politicians aren't doing anything about it, and then they're on you to clear it out, or it's your career. Like, we all know how it works. So what do you do? The basic, the most basic idea of, at least what I understand with crowd control with protesting, is you go after the leaders, right? First, you start to peg off the leaders. And of the leadership, legally, as it's in the court documents, there were initially 6 of us. Not just myself. There were 6 of us on the documents, of which 2 of them were arrested. And those 2 were on the street, right? So think about this logically. You have a protest. You want to end it. You start, and Salman Seema talked about this because this is what happens in Iran all the time, how they break them up. And that's how far we've gone in Canada. The Canadian government's behaving like the mullahs in Iran. No, anyways. So what you do is you start breaking off the leadership, because once there's no leadership, then it becomes very difficult to organize. What they didn't understand was the decentralized nature of this protest, that there were all these different groups that were doing their own thing, some of them trying to sabotage all of us. And if you figure out who sabotaged it, those are the people you should be angry at, because they're the ones who caused certain truckers and peoples to get arrested. But that's for a later date. We'll deal with that another time. So Tamara, first Chris was arrested on the street, remember? And then Tamara was arrested on the street. And somebody told me recently, but I'm not sure if this is true, and I can't legally talk to Tamara or she'll get into trouble, so I keep my distance because I don't want her to get into trouble. Somebody told me she was told, don't go out on the street or you're going to be arrested, because the police are trying to, break up kind of the leadership or whatever it was. I don't know if it was specifically in that wording, or if that's exactly what was happening, but that's what I was told recently, within the past week, actually. So, but the difference with me was I had a broken ankle. I was in a wheelchair. Where am I going? Yes, I went every Sunday after or during Pastor Hildebrand's service and gave a speech afterwards. But I couldn't get into the shower, man. I had a cast all the way up my knee and was in I don't want to say a ton of pain, but I had to sit there with my stupid leg up all day long. Like, you can maybe make it out in my interviews. If you go back and watch them, I'm seeing a little bit cockeyed. It's because my leg was up in the air. So because of that, the police are not going to be arresting the gimp in the wheelchair, because he's sitting in the hotel room. They want to clear out the people who are leadership on the ground, who are communicating directly with the truckers. My role was a spokesperson, right? And also for them to bounce ideas off me when they had some questions. And that's a significant, not a significant, but important part of the book that we discuss that chapter. towards the end. Oh my God, you still can't talk to Tamara? Nope. Tamara is on, has a bail, assigned some bail conditions, where she can't talk to me. I can't talk to her. I can't talk to, I don't know, a whole bunch of people. Which is why I'm doing this, and I'm going to be testifying in the commission and all that sort of stuff. Because as you know, when I left the hotel, by the way, you know why I left? I explain this in the book in detail, but the short version, because did I explain this yesterday? Because Keith Wilson told me to leave, and I'm like, dude, leave what? He's like, well, everybody's being arrested. Like, I'm in a wheelchair in a hotel room. What, they're going to break down the doors of my hotel room and arrest me for going on a TV show and talking about the Freedom Convoy? And he said, yeah, they might. I'm like, that's a stretch, dude. I don't think that's what's going to happen. But, you know, he pushed. And, you know, and I think he would be honest about that. And he would say that, yeah, I spoke to Benjamin, and I told him he needs to leave. And then finally, I said, fine, if you think I have to, if it's better. And he said to me, listen, somebody needs to be able to speak up for freedom, and we can't do that if you get arrested, because Tamara and, and Chris have already been arrested. So somebody has to be able to go out and whatever, right? And Claudette, yet Tom M takes a picture with her. You know, it's that is a whole other basket that I will open sometime soon. My little hint on that is check your ego. You'll understand, not you, but that statement. Yeah, so the idea was I need to go out and speak for freedom. You know, if you have to get arrested and have to sign off on being silent, then nobody can speak for the movement. And that's really what convinced me to say, okay, fine, I'll leave. So I left. I didn't leave Ottawa, but I left the red zone. Basically, I left my hotel room and took an Uber and stayed with a friend for 3 more weeks, because I had hospital visits. And remember, my ankle was broken in Ottawa. My doctor was in Ottawa. So where am I going? I'm not leaving anywhere. Unfortunately, I had to stay there. But it was frustrating to then learn afterwards, when I posted that post on Twitter, which I explain in the book in its full context. And when you read that, then I think you'll understand why. But when I posted on Twitter that, you know, some of us are leaving, that we're leaving Ottawa and blah, blah, blah. I can't remember the exact tweet. I should memorize it, but I remember. Then, you know, 5 minutes later, my lawyer, Keith Wilson's very close friend, Ezra Levant, retweets, it looks like you ran. And I'm like, you fucking asshole. You know, just like, anyways. There's so much more here. There's so much that's been going on behind the scenes, even up until now. And it's still going on. That even after this book, there might be warranted. And keep an eye on my Substack, because I'm going to talk a lot more about this stuff going into the hearings, to give additional context to what you read in the book and to what you're seeing in the hearings. And that's part of the reason I wanted to do this live stream. Like, I have no real ambition to be a streamer, to be entirely honest. I like my privacy. But at the same time, while the days that I won't be testifying, to clear the record, because the way the commission works, as I understand it, the commission is supposed to be a nonpartisan body, and one side is the government's representatives, the other side is the convoy or convoy representatives, and they're supposed to not so much adjudicate, but they're supposed to put together a report sometime in 2023 based on their findings, of which the report will just say government bad, convoy bad, everybody bad, and sweep it all under the rug. So no politician needs to talk about the Freedom Convoy into the next election if the election hasn't already occurred, which I still think might be a possibility. Anyways, so the short version of why wasn't I arrested was I wasn't on the street. I was trapped in a wheelchair in a hotel room. There were 6 board members and about, I don't know how many people between the Swiss and the Arc and the Sheridan that were manning things on the ground. I'm going to estimate between 50 and 100 people that were volunteering and organizing. I don't want to say some of the names, just I don't want to out people, sort of thing. But there was a large group of people that were doing it. And guess what? None of them got arrested either. I mean, Danny got picked up and released the same night. But why? Danny was on the street, right? So everybody who was in any sort of organization or leadership role who was on the street was arrested. I was in a wheelchair, and that's why. At least to the best of my knowledge and talking to friends who are in policing. And, you know, you can also see, like, when you watch the video of Tamara being arrested, you can tell those cops were not happy, right? They didn't want to do that. I felt... You have two minds of the police because there's the two types of cops. It seems to be there's the politicized cops, and then there's the ones who understand the moral good and the morality of the job that they need to do. And I think you could tell by looking at those cops that when they picked her up that they're like, why am I doing this job? Like they had that look on their face, and I felt not quite as bad for them as I felt for her, but yeah, I think that's what it was. So I hope that sufficiently answers why, but it doesn't answer why I wasn't arrested, but it doesn't answer the question why people are obsessed with me or anybody else wanting us to get arrested. Like, why do you want people who were leading the convoy to get arrested? Think about it for a second. Why would you want that? It doesn't make any sense. The only people who would want that are Trudeau supporters and Trudeau. Like, those are the people who would want, and you know, you can see some of the hacks online who are saying that the entire time have been saying that. But I mean, like, seriously, guys, just like sit back and think for a second, you know? Anyways, I hope I've answered that sufficiently. If not, tell me in the comments, in the chat, and I will clarify any other further questions. And by the way, I've done this so many times. Joe Rampart knows I've gone into his rooms, and James, I've gone into his rooms and explained this ad nauseum, and that's why I put it into print, into the chapter that explains all of what was going on there, so there's no ambiguity, and everybody knows. So, so if you know anybody else who has this obsession with me or anyone getting arrested, it should probably be a little bit skeptical, in my opinion. I don't want to see anyone arrested. Yeah, exactly. What I'm still curious about is why the overzealous Crown didn't pay charges. Sorry, it's really small. Didn't lay charges like they did on Tamara. Okay, so you mean against me? It was when I left, when I was back in, when I left the hotel and I went to stay with a friend. What you didn't see was me like this, almost, with cell phones on the phone with lawyers for the entire week. I spent all my week on the phone with lawyers because the Attorney General called one of my lawyers to talk about me. And I was like, okay, what the hell? Okay, fine. And so I reached out to a friend of mine, a criminal lawyer, by the way, Joseph Newberger, Not on Record podcast, an amazing criminal lawyer, him and Chris Assey. And Joseph was on his way to New York, so he's like, here's Chris's number, call him immediately, get him up to speed, let him know what's going on. So I had Daniel, I had him, I had a small group of lawyers I was going back and forth with the entire time to prevent anything from happening, to explain to law enforcement, saying, why do you think you can, what do you can arrest this guy? What do you want? They wanted to do a warrant, like they got a warrant against Caribou, who it was the one who led all the Bitcoin stuff. So I had my lawyer contact the RCMP and the OPP and say, my name is Chris Assey. I am Mr. Ditcher's lawyer in this matter. What can I help you with, right? And so it's very different when you have good, competent lawyers who argue law, not emotional rhetoric. When you have a team of people that spend all week trying to kind of help you avoid it, and that's why. And that's because, again, I mentioned in the beginning of this, I have family in policing, I have family in the legal profession, and I've grown up around a lot of lawyers. So I'm the farthest thing from a lawyer, but I understand how the system and the process works. So as soon as I left, I jumped into high gear. Once I got some sort of inkling that, oh, maybe there's an interest in you too, I'm like, okay. So that's when I opened up the phone, started calling everybody. And once I think they were effective in communicating the fact that, if you enact on Mr. Dichter without any just cause, that might introduce complications into your matter. Now, why that wasn't done for Tamara, I don't know. Like, again, I said I know a lot of lawyers. Every lawyer I know is bewildered and beside themselves how Tamara was in custody for so long. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. So make sure you have a good lawyer. Good lawyers are important. You are a better target for the liberal prosecutor than a native grandmother. No, I'm not. I'm worse. Because look at it this side. Like, I get because I'm very libertarian, and I get, I sometimes get the liberal smear from people. Like, my friends in the U.S., they call me left-wing Pico. My friends in Canada call me right-wing. I can't win either way. But because I'm really a libertarian on issues, and those of you who may know, I'm very libertarian before all the activism went crazy with all the puberty blockers and nonsense. Like, I'm not supportive of that at all and how they're targeting children. But I've always been very supportive of gay rights. I have friends in the gay community, like the Dave Rubin type gay people. And also the fact that, all right, well, she's, I said this in our first, in our interview with Rebel Media, that Ezra Levant, spiked that Tamara is Native and I'm Jewish. So right away, you got, this whole white supremacy thing is not going to work. So it actually would have worked against them had they. And I also have a big mouth, so I'm not going to stay quiet about certain issues. And I think they understood that. Fair enough. Answer, BJ. Any chance you're a lodge member? No. I don't even know what lodge. Sorry, pardon the ignorance. It's stupid. Like the Lions Club? Like, I don't know what lodge. But anyways, let me know what you mean by that. And are you talking about the firearms? Because there's one in the firearms group I'm a member of. But anyways, that's a whole. But that's just a membership, and that's a whole other issue. So yeah, let me know. Clarify that. If you have any further questions about this, read the book. The book is going to explain a lot. We're going to do the book launch. I'm getting requests to do either book launches or talks or meet and greets all over the place. And I don't think there's enough really to kind of justify just yet setting up additional events, but I would love to. Somebody asked me yesterday about doing something in Vancouver. I've never been to Vancouver. I've been all over Canada, but I've never been to Vancouver. I would love to. So that's a possibility because I'd like to answer some of these questions face to face because I got nothing to hide. I just tell you exactly how things were. And I think, I don't know, I'm very excited to meet a whole bunch of people. I went through that with Bitcoin when I spoke at Bitcoin Miami. And then I met Nico at the Miami Bitcoin get together and went on their podcast. I'm going to be in Boston in November. At some point, and telling the story of the Freedom Convoy. And I got to tell you, for the Canadians, the Americans love this. I can't tell you how much overwhelming support we had when I was in Florida. It was shocking. When I got on the stage, and you can search it online, it's called, if you type in wartime Bitcoin, that was the panel that I was on with Rook Romanowski, and who's very well known. He's the guy who uncovered the Epstein Island debacle. And he's wearing a shirt on stage. I think it said Epstein didn't kill himself. It was hysterical. But that room, it was the first presentation I saw during the whole Bitcoin conference because there were two stages. it was the first time I saw that stage completely packed, like standing room. There were people around the side walls in the back. There's maybe, and it's a huge room, I don't know, 2,000 people, 3,000 people. And I arrived late because I was on my crutches and I had to, long story, we thought it was the other stage, and then I had to rush on crutches to around the Miami Beach Convention Center, which was not a short hop. And so I got in late on stage. And when I explained that, I'm Benjamin, I was the spokesperson from the Canadian Freedom Convoy, I couldn't, you can't see it on camera the same way as I saw it in the room. I couldn't believe the eruption of applause and the amount of people that were standing up giving us like an ovation. And that's people that were predominantly American, a lot of Latinos, because Miami, and a lot of people from all over South America there. I think Bitcoin Miami is the conference where people from South America congregate to it. And I can't tell you how much love and support we've been getting from Americans, getting into Ubers. I had 5 or 6 different Uber drivers who recognized me from one or another interview that wanted to take their pictures with me. It was so embarrassing. But that's the amount of love that we've gotten from the Americans. And, one of the guys who we've gotten to know each other a little bit during the convoy, who is a trucker in the upper right corner of the United States. We tried to meet up this week, but he got a little bit ill, so we're going to try and get together hopefully next week if I'm going to be in the area, and maybe we'll meet up. Or I think we're going to meet up in Binghamton, New York. But yeah, man, like the Americans get it. They're on top of this, and they saw everything that was going on, and they knew to call bullshit, and also they knew. Some of them told me, yeah, we could see you were being sabotaged from the inside, which mine was really, because I'm pretty good at that sort of stuff. But, it's just so busy with other things going on. I knew something was going on. I just didn't know who and how and why. Now we know. Now, since putting the book together, we understand all the pieces and all the players and all the, who's funding it, why they're funding it, and all the people that were sabotaging the convoy. But it's really complex. I have trickled out some information about it on here, and somebody asked me yesterday, they said, on the topic of who sabotaged the convoy, we've established, I think people now understand, as I just said, it's multiple people, multiple groups, and that there are a few key people who had a massive effect in derailing it from the inside. But this person asked me, said, why, I can't remember the wording because I didn't write it down here, but the wording was, why are you being so coy with explaining who sabotaged the Freedom Convoy? Because yesterday I gave a hint. And if you didn't watch yesterday, my hint was simple. It was 3 simple words. Follow the money. And if you follow the money, like many things in life, you'll start to go down that path of understanding who sabotaged the Freedom Convoy, and eventually you'll come to why. You'll get to understand why. But the reason I'm not going to out and out explain directly is 2 reasons. Firstly, we have a commission coming up. And the commission is about Justin Trudeau and his invocation of the Emergencies Measures Act, and did he violate Canadian law and the Canadian Constitution. And that is paramount. That is very, very important that we address it. But the second reason is I'm not going to, I can't not just come out and tell it. A, there's the commission. So first there's that. But B, I want you to figure it out. Because I figured it out. It took me, and a few people some time to put the pieces together. What I want to do is I want to lay out the pieces and have you figure it out. Because I think it's a lot more valuable for you to put those pieces together than somebody come out and just say, oh yeah, this is what happened. Like, oh, well, I can't believe it. Because people are going to be really upset. They're going to be really angry when they find out how and who sabotaged the Freedom Convoy, and those truckers ended up having their property seized. they ended up in jail, or they have charges and are still facing charges. And there's just a lot of people in politics that just play a lot of fucking games with people. That's all they do. They just play games with people. They just cause chaos. And that's where some of this came from. Sorry about the swearing, but I'll behave better. What can I tell you? This is my space. I'll do what I want. But no, I understand. I'm not gonna. But anyways, so I will lay out the pieces, and you will over time put it together. That's a big part of what this stream is going to be, because I want you to be confident that you were able to put everything together, that you saw point A, B, C, and D and put it all together. And then you can ask me, is this correct? And I can say, you're almost there, but that's part of it. Or, yeah, you're 100% correct. Because then you'll have done the research on your own. You always say, do your own research. Well, I'll give you the tools and the things you need to put your research together. I hope that's helpful. I really do, because I think it's going to really cast a light on a whole lot of things that have been going on in politics in Canada for some time. Thank you for all the waves, by the way. I don't know what's happening on this stream, because I got two Instagrams going on. I'm using my American phone and my Canadian phone, and one of them freezes. I think I got to replace that with a newer phone. Claudette says, do you trust the commission? Not at all. Not at all. But maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised, right? So, for example, what has been going on? Should I get into detail on this now? I probably shouldn't. Claudette, hold on to that question, because we'll talk about that going into the commission. It's a little bit too early. Again, it's not quite a court case, but it's kind of like that. You don't want to tape things, and I'm respectful of when judges don't want things. They don't want things tried in public or in the media. That they want it in the courtroom, sort of thing, or this commission room, whatever. But that whole philosophy, I'm respectful of it. But I think because of the nature of this as being so politicized, it may not be entirely honest. It may be quite dishonest. So I'm going to be here to make sure to keep them honest. And when they're not honest, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to clarify it for you. So, but do you trust the commission? Right now, definitely not. Will I be pleasantly surprised? Maybe. But I'm not going to get my hopes up. K9, more importantly, is it being broadcasted so some people might wake up from the truth? Well, that's assuming you're going to see truth during the commission, which is, you'll see it for me. You're going to see it for me. You may not see it from some other people. But, yeah, it is going to be broadcasted. Apparently the government has made a request for it to be broadcasted on maybe C-SPAN, I would assume. And listen, there's a whole bunch of YouTubers that were broadcasting different stuff. Like This Guy's Garage was one of the channels I came across. Mr. Snap, I can't remember this. I can't remember off the top. There's a whole bunch of channels that were, and thank God for them, that they were covering the Freedom Convoy. They were broadcasting live on the street. There's somebody I'm going to be talking to later, Mike, who put together the most epic emotional video about the Freedom Convoy, and I feel like indebted to him. So these channels have been covering all this stuff. They also were covering the hearings about the freezing. Was it about the freezing of the money? And the hearings that are still ongoing that happened at the beginning of the summer. And I imagine they're going to be doing the same thing with the commission, that they'll be splicing stuff up, putting in their contents, and putting it out to everybody openly. Okay, all right. I got only a minute and 50 seconds to shut down. For some reason, this account is limited in the duration that I can do a stream, so I don't know. Okay, Beth and Kiss Junkie, you could have done more, but... oh, yeah, you could have done more, but you were a mobile and hotel bound. Exactly. That certainly helped for you not being on the street every day and being seen by police. And the thing is, like, I've never broken anything. I've never had crutches in my life. Boy, do you get, one of my best friends has cerebral palsy. So I've had, for 25 years that I've known him, I've seen what he's struggled through. That's why if you ever park in a handicap spot, you deserve to have your tires slashed. I'm sorry. But anyways, moving, trying to get to the stage to say thank you to everybody. It took me 45 minutes just to get there, because I had to go like inch by inch because there was ice everywhere. And so yeah, like I remember I came down when Keith told me leave the hotel, leave, blah blah blah. Fine, I came down for the Uber, and there was fresh snow on the ground. I looked, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die trying to get into the car, because I had to walk like 50 feet. It was a nightmare. But anyways, I got to run. We got 26 seconds left. I love you all. Be good to somebody today. And yeah, Viva Fry did an amazing job covering the convoy. Be good to somebody. Be kind to strangers. It's going to make you feel better, and it's going to make everybody else feel better. And that's the spirit of what the Freedom Convoy was. It was all about brotherly love. Okay, I got to run. We'll talk to you soon. Oops. Okay, sorry. You know what? I